Good morning, fellas. I'm going to be posting this probably not in the morning once I upload this to YouTube, but it's early, it's dark. This gym parking lot is completely empty, and I'm waiting for them to open up. And I kind of want to talk about something that I haven't, fully broken down in this, journey that I've walked with you guys on YouTube. But I get a lot of questions about my finance career, and I want to kind of give some harsh lessons, especially for the young guys, asking me questions and asking for advice. But then also for, guys that, kind of like a lot of the dudes that I work with that, are significantly older than me, and, they've kind of been in the corporate grind, if you will. And I'm not one of those YouTuber people that are gonna be like, oh bro, quit your 9 to 5 and go and drop ship or something. You know what I mean? Like that's not what this page is about. But I want you to understand that you can't worship the work. You have to worship the God who gave you the ability to work. And as a result, use your work to honor his children, others, your people, the people around you, your brothers and sisters in Christ. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backstory. So when I was much younger and I had finally kind of fixed my brain and body, as I tell you guys all the time, I use that newfound energy and potential and ability to speak in a verbose manner to network my way into finance. And originally, I went to a school that was not looked fondly upon by finance snobs. So I had to work really hard to, cold call hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people just to get my foot in the door in this industry. And it worked out, but I spent so many years, worshiping that career path. And all that did was leave me empty, okay? Because you gotta realize, imagine the average young dude trying to get into investment banking. I mean, usually you don't have a passion for you might say in interviews, I have a passion for financial markets. Would you do it for free? Would you? Would you genuinely do it for free? Do you have that kind of passion? You probably don't. But the passion that I had was what I do here. I love the gym. I love training. I love introducing people that don't know anything about training, that do know a lot about training. I love just getting them on my wavelength and just watching them grow. And that lights me up. And I want to kind of show you the segue of that career, which I'm still in, private equity in a bit more of a toned down, less 100 hours a week. Now I spend that 100 hours a week working on, helping my clients, building this page. But, I spend more 50, 60 hours a week, doing finance work. But when I was in that mode where all I thought about was, getting into that industry, I thought to myself that was the promised land. And that was what was going to make everything worthwhile. All the sleepless nights and all the calls of being rejected, all that kind of stuff. But all it did was get me really hyped up. And then when I started in that industry, I realized, dang, all these people around me at the desk popping some gas station pouches just to do their work until 2 a.m. None of them felt fulfilled. And a lot of them, unfortunately, were not close to the Lord. This industry is full of individuals who come from a different demographic, not Christian, a lot of them, unfortunately. I'm not going to get into that, but I think you guys know what I mean. And unfortunately, you see a lot of these dudes adopt a mindset where they live solely for themselves. Okay? And I want you to imagine these dudes, like, making good money, relatively young, but you're worried that some other guy's gonna take your spot, right? You're worried that, like, someone's gonna pull these office politics strings on you and mess with you and try to get you fired and whatnot. And I saw a lot of that, man. And that's not purpose. That's not what God called us to do, okay? So as I progressed in that industry, I was like, you know what? I want to get my way into private equity instead of investment banking so that I'm able to, just have a little bit more balance. Because I'll tell you right now, the second that promised land, idea faded, the second I just was in the office, there was once like a multi-month stretch where like I didn't go to bed earlier than like 2 a.m. for so long, dude. And like, when you do that without feeling that your work has purpose, you burn out. But what I want to talk about in this video is that, like, burnout only comes when you don't see a return on your time. And I'm not talking monetary, to be honest with you. I mean, like, knowing that your work is serving the Lord. And just making Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints and all that until 4 a.m. just to make the rich richer, that doesn't, something feels off about it, usually, for most guys that I've met and worked alongside. And that's what leads people to, want to jump ship to something where they can kind of have more time. Because I took kind of a gamble, on myself, where I saw just my daily life being dedicated just to making the rich richer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find a job where I work more like 50, 60 hours a week so I can spend 30, 40 hours a week doing what I actually care about, which is, fitness, right? So I want you to realize that this whole gobbledygook you see on the internet, where it's like you're either a corporate slave or you're an internet, crazy guy. There's a medium. And the only medium that is worthwhile is one where, in some semblance, you are serving people. Okay? Because for most guys that don't want to go and, talk on the internet like I do, maybe your outlet isn't just going and preaching the word of carnivore. Maybe it's, balancing being healthy and strong and jacked alongside what you're doing in your day-to-day life, in your work. Because that alone will spread and allow you to serve others. Because if your kids or your friends or your significant other, like, if they see you being like, okay, I have this work to do, this plow set before me, as the word says, but I also am going to do what must be done in order to set an example for the people around me and get them healthy, that is going to give you so much purpose, to the point where you don't have to be, like, yelling on Instagram like me. But, like, we are all called, this is the crux of this video, we are all called to take the pain that we have endured and use it to serve others. That is what the Lord did on the cross. He came down from heaven. God could have just never looked us in the eyes, but he did, knowing that it would take him to the cross. He endured that pain so that the joy set before him of freeing of his people, that's all that mattered to him. And again, I'm not calling myself Jesus, but what I'm saying is that, like, we're all called to emulate that. We're all called to bear our cross, which for me and for a lot of folks that I work with that cross is the pain of health issues, just being a physical weakling, for lack of a better word, and just fixing that weakness so that people who come after you don't have to deal with that weakness. Because for me, when I remember I was, working ridiculously hard, and just because I had mentioned and kind of taught this whole carnivore stuff to my family, I remember coming home after a long stretch of, working really hard, and my dad had finally lost 60 freaking pounds. He couldn't have lost a single pound despite all the random diets that, my brother and my mom tried to put him on my whole life as a kid. And this just worked effortlessly. And now he's in the gym. He's banging out pull-ups. I'm proud as heck of my dad. And that gave me so much more, I was filled with this purpose and drive. So much more than any Excel spreadsheet or end of year bonus, that I could use to buy a watch or cars. That paled in comparison to just being able to look my dad in the eyes and be like, I know that you're going to be strong enough to not trip and fall when you're older. I know that you're covered from that. I know you're healthy now. I know you're not dependent on stuff from the healthcare experts and whatnot. That's peace, man. That's peace that comes from your pain. My pain of being just this so-called genetic weakling for most of my life, and fixing that by implementing this lifestyle stuff that I talk about, this fitness stuff that I talk about, and then being able to spread that to finally move the needle for my parents. That's purpose. And for you, that might literally just be getting in fantastic shape for the first time in your life, to the point where your family is like, whoa, what happened? Tell us. Spill, bro. And when you spill to them, yes, you give them the lifestyle contact. You tell them what they can do diet and training wise that easily gets them healthy. But at the same time, you can point them to the Lord. You can say this is all because of God. And that is how we bear fruit. That is how you take your work in your life and just the struggles that you got to deal with in the office, in the gym, with your health, and you just make them about more than you. Because every single client that I've worked with that actually does exactly what I tell them to do, which is all of them. I make sure that, people that get into my program are going to do what I'm going to tell them to do. I need discipline from y'all. Those guys, they don't just come to me and they're like, oh yeah, I want to get jacked, bro. No, it's because they're like, man, I have a lot of clients. I'm starting a family. I'm having a kid soon. I got to be in shape. I got to be ready. That is a guiding image that's powerful enough to drive you. That guiding image of oh my goodness, I help my parents with their health. I need to help others. That drove me to be like, you know what? Peace out, investment banking. I'm going to, move on to, something a little bit chiller like private equity. I'm going to, make basically my full-time job outside of work. Because again, this meat fuel mass stuff, this takes a lot of time. And, that gamble was the best decision I ever made. Because when I wake up every morning and I get texts saying, hey man, I'm now down 20 pounds. Previous week I was down 15. It's when I get those texts from guys that I know are going to then pass that on to the people around them, their family, and then their family's going to get healthy. And maybe they'll pass it on to their wife or their kids. And maybe their wife or their grandma or something, or their mom, maybe she's not going to, go in the gym and get a 6-pack like us, but at least we know that she's not going to be dependent on the system. She's going to be independently healthy. That's what this rewards all of us with. I'm telling you, bro, I just wish I could say some of this stuff that gets, flagged on here. But like, the big C, a lot of different, health conditions, like you can literally just 99% ensure that you won't ever have to deal with that stuff. And if you can pass that on to your parents, bro, like that's all this is about, man. Getting jacked isn't about getting revenge on your girlfriend and having a six-pack. It's about being the strongest version of you so that you're strong enough to bear the cross for everyone else, for those around you, so that they can then go and bear their cross and be strong enough to, walk in this fallen world and have the strength to be a light to everyone else around them. So, I know I kind of ramble here, but like, I do want to make this video just because, I talk about my lifestyle in a way where I want y'all to know that you can work ridiculously hard and bear a lot of, good things and fruit and for your family, financially, health-wise, everything. You can push yourself and be a hardworking man and still be in fantastic shape. And most importantly, just have purpose behind all of it. Not just be a gym bro who just wants to be vain and jacked, but doing it out of love. Because you know that if you make the transformation, 10 other people in your life will. Because they'll be like, dang, this guy's on to something. So that's what I'm trying to pass on to y'all. I want y'all to spread this. It's mad simple. There's ways to tweak it and make it go way faster in terms of, just getting absolutely exotically jacked. But in terms of getting healthy, that's something you can spread to your folks, to your family immediately. And they can feel amazing in weeks. So pass it on. Jesus is King as always. And I love y'all. Thanks for listening in. Looking forward to these daily videos from here on out. And I'll talk to y'all soon. DM me if you got any questions. Can help you out. Train you if you want some help. And we'll go from there. Peace, boys.